G'day, welcome back. If you've been following my channel for a while, you've seen a lot of videos that I've done on here talking about weird things or different things that Colombians do. But it also goes the other way. Caro actually has been watching some of these videos. You wanted a chance to redeem your fellow Colombians, right?
Yes.
In this video, we're actually going to talk about things that Caro noticed when she was in the US that Americans did actually worse and which is actually done a lot better here in Colombia. Before we get into that, can you just tell us a bit about your background with the US and why you know about life in the US?
I lived in the US for 5 years. I did my master's degree there and also worked for a bit and then moved back to Medellin.
What's the first thing that you immediately saw when you got there and you thought, this is completely crazy, I can't believe they do it this way, we do it so much better in Colombia?
I think the first thing that really shocked me was the level of consumerism. I found there, for example, the aisles of candy and soda were a lot of them. There was maybe 3 aisles of just sodas and all the types of sodas. You're being continually bombarded by commercials about very unhealthy stuff. Fast food, candy, sweet, sugar. It's a lot in comparison to what we have here.
So when you talk about consumerism, you mean unhealthy? Only unhealthy consumerism or general consumerism?
I think general consumerism, to change to the new thing, to the new thing. There's a lot of propaganda and commercials about this. Change of car, change your TV. We don't have that here, or at least we have a culture more of if something is damaged, for example, your TV, you go and you repair it instead of buying something new. We're conscious of what we're buying. I think this is because maybe we're more aware of poverty and how we can end up if we just don't take care of our resources. You don't have that in the States. You don't see real poor people in the streets dying of hunger.
So you see homeless people.
You see homeless people, but you don't see
it's not as bad as
bad as Colombia. You see an indigenous woman with 5 children that are very skinny. We're more conscious of our resources and of taking care of what we have instead of buying.
Yes.
Buying. Instead of going and buying a new TV, we repair what we have. And there's a lot of repairing shops. So you can repair your shoes.
Repairing shoes.
We repair shoes here. Yeah.
Really?
It's a thing.
I would never even think to do that. As soon as my soul comes off, buy new shoes.
No, there is you would repair it. They change the whole sole for you and do it again. Or your luggage, if it's damaged, you can.
Is that common here?
That's common. I think it's very in our culture to reuse stuff.
I understand that it's a poverty thing, right? People might not have finances, but even in the US, people without money still buying shit that they don't need and they can't afford, heavily in debt, but just forced to just buy the new and new and new. What about Colombians who are well off? Say a Colombian has a good job, has good money.
That's in our culture.
They
still... For example, with food. And I noticed this a lot in the States. It was that food was already cold and they would just throw it away.
Yeah.
That's something that is never, ever going to happen in any Colombian household. Even if you're rich, poor, you eat every single thing you have on your
Or if you don't eat it, you put it in the fridge and eat it the next day.
And eat it later. We're very conscious of our resources. An experience that happened to me when I was in the States was that I had a roommate and she was American. And when you first move out alone, that first grocery shopping list that you do is generally way more than what you eat in a week.
Because you don't know what to buy.
Because you don't know what to buy. So it happened to me once, bought too much food that I couldn't eat. Okay. And a lot of things I had to throw away because
they expired.
They expired or no, there was no one else to eat it. My roommate did this and then the next week she would buy exactly the same. And then the next week, exactly the same. It was particularly something that I was why do you keep buying the same amount every week if you know that we have to throw away? Then again, it's because I think they're not exposed to that reality. So imagine if you ever lived in a place where you don't face poverty in your everyday.
Yeah, you don't understand. Maybe they just don't understand that.
I don't think it's they're selfish or anything. They don't know.
Yeah. They're ignorant to the outside world.
To the outside world. If you don't see that every day, you're not gonna be appreciative of your resources.
True, but sticking on that point, right? The US doesn't have as much poverty as some of these other countries. But every city in the US has some type of homeless people, right?
Yeah.
Holding the signs, I just want some food. Wouldn't they say that and understand?
I don't think it's still to the level here where you're challenged with that every day. Us going to the gym, how many homeless people we see in the streets that they're hungry. You're more aware if that's a reality that you're facing every day. So I think it's because they're not facing that every day, that they're not aware in their little actions of the day that they do to be appreciative of the resources that they have.
That makes sense. I think we just read a quote by Tyler Durden this morning in our book, right?
Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need.
And that kind of sums it up, the consumerism culture, right? Yeah, so what else did you notice apart from the consumerism and wastage?
I think that's something that very relates with what I said before, is the acceptance of unhealthy culture. That's not a thing in Colombia. And you've seen it here in Medellin. People move a lot, go a lot to the gym, go on hikes. In the States, I don't know if this is because they're trying to be more inclusive or they're trying to be more permissive. For example, when I went to the grocery shopping, I started seeing these little carts where very obese or like people were using them. Also old people, but it was mostly like heavyweight people. And I was very shocked. I was like, wow, like I would never see this in Colombia.
You're talking about Walmart, aren't you?
Huh?
Walmart.
Look what we talked before of how many commercials
Yeah.
and how many aisles for junk food there is.
Yeah.
This is like they're continually targeting and making it more easy for them to gain weight
Yeah.
and be unhealthy
It
and
is,
have an
yeah.
unhealthy habit. I think in Colombia is the completely opposite.
Okay, so what's different in Colombia?
The society or like the government itself, it doesn't like promote unhealthy products or unhealthy ways of living. They promote completely the opposite. Or like, we made this new park, come and walk and be here
So they
with
promote a
your family.
more healthy lifestyle.
Be active, consume more products that are good. I actually saw today that they're putting a new tax on unhealthy products.
Okay.
So they're making it even more expensive, so you buy the ones that are more healthy.
Unhealthy products like what?
They're putting it in sodas, very processed food, and it's not just that the tax increases depending on the amount of sugar it has.
Ah, that's a great one. Sugar is one of the biggest killers that people don't even realize. So the Colombia has a tax starting this month in November. We're in November.
Yeah.
November, if you want to buy all this junk food in Colombia, you have to pay how much more? 10% more?
It says something 10% and it's going
But
to
then
be
it goes up.
and then next year it's gonna go up. I don't know exactly the percentages, but it's something like that.
Okay, wow. You talked about something very interesting in terms of the Colombian government not promoting an unhealthy lifestyle. Let me give you an example, right? I want you to answer this. I watch football, American football, NFL, 12 hours every Sunday. And Caro will come in and out every now and then and be like, oh, what's happening? Who's this? What's that? And then walk out. And then after a while, I think it was like a couple of Sundays ago, she's like, is all the ads that these people show just junk food? And I'm like, yes, basically it's just insurance and junk food, which is kind of another little, scheme.
Yeah.
Because those two things are tied together. But anyway, my question is,
True.
2,000 chicken nuggets, $2, 30 burgers, $1. And that's every single ad. I've never watched Colombian TV, but when
It's
you watch
not-
a
it's not
Colombian
the
soccer match or something, they don't have these type of ads?
Not exactly. Maybe they have like beers and having fun. More like alcohol.
Okay.
It's still unhealthy,
Okay.
but
they don't have that much junk food ads?
Junk
Like
food.
everything bombarded with junk
yes,
food.
yes.
Okay.
It's like too much.
The next point we're going to talk about is something that I just alluded to in the past point. I think a lot of this stuff, maybe it's not conspiracy theory, maybe it's logical, it makes sense, but if you feed a lot of these people unhealthy food, then you can feed them health insurance and then you can feed them medicine. Yeah, so you notice something very different with the way that they prescribe medicine in the US. As opposed to Colombia, right? Can you tell us a bit about that?
The States is very developed in like mental health awareness. Almost everyone that you meet there have some sort of mental health issue that in Colombia it's not. You're like depressed, they will say, oh, you're just sad, but you just need to keep on working.
Okay.
That's a negative thing.
Uh-huh.
But for example, I'm just gonna give an example of my experience. I was having trouble sleeping, so I went to the psychologist of like my school.
Why you were stressed about?
Yeah, I was stressed about
University life.
university,
Okay.
masters, everything.
Okay.
And I said like, oh, I'm having like insomnia, da, da, da. And she was like, okay, if you don't start sleeping well, like in the next 2 days, we're going to medicate you. And I was like, what?
And that was a shock to you.
That was a shock to me because medication here is like the last resource and they're going to give you like more options or like a more integral way of dealing with your situation. I was not the only case. I have like very close friends. They were having mental health issues and they were heavily medicated in the States. What they sent them was like a doses that was basically numbing them. They were Colombians. They came back to Colombia to the psychiatrist here and they were like, what? Immediately, like, lower the doses, send you to therapy, look at in other ways like you can resolve your issue, exercise.
They're gonna try everything before medicating.
And this is not a thing. Like, if you need medication, take medication.
We're not diagnosing people. We're
diagnosing
just
people.
showing the differences of
Yeah,
how they
it's like
work.
the importance of having someone that knows your body and is the doses that they're going to give you is appropriate for what you have.
Yes.
Not just numbing them and that's done, that's a problem. The rest of your life you're gonna be taking this pill, so it numbs you and you don't have to deal with life.
Before trying anything, just medicate them and then send them out the door, right?
Yeah, I think it's all related with what we were talking before. They make all this ambience for the people to get sick. They're sick and they have to be medicated, so it's all like a business. It's like the government wants them to be sick.
It's good to know that they don't do that in Colombia. It's like they have a more wholesome approach to treating people, right? Actually caring for the people rather than just trying to make money.
Trying to make money. Yeah, I feel like that's how I have felt when I've been treated here.
Okay.
It's a more like, okay, we're gonna do all of this.
Yeah.
They give me more resources than just one magic pill that is gonna numb me.
It's always funny or interesting to explore these cultural paradigms and differences. If you want to see another video where we talk about different things that Colombians do, then check out this video because I think you're going to enjoy that one too.